1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honey Bee.
Fun time, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. I am one of your hosts, Precious D.
And I am the other one of your hosts, Honey Bee.
Honeybee and I are two best friends that are making our way through the history of kaiju movies. We started in 1933 with King Kong, and now we are up to 2013 with Pacific Rim.
Wow.
It is directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Woo!
Screenplay by Travis Beacham and Guillermo del Toro. It's in color, it's in English, it's 132 minutes. The budget is between 180 and 200 million, and the box office was 411 million.
Whoa.
There was a sequel, Pacific Rim Uprising, that came out in 2018, and a anime series sequel that also came out in 2018. So we will, of course, cover those when we get to 2018.
Nice.
The anime has 2 seasons with a total of 14 episodes, so they're short, little 7-episode seasons. And I was rewatching today. I had watched it before, but I realized I hadn't made it all the way through the second episode. And I started watching it. I'm like, I don't remember what's going on. I better go back. So I watched the first 2 episodes today.
Yeah, Gus was telling me that it's really good.
Yeah. Have you seen any of it?
Uh-uh.
Oh, okay. It's on Netflix, folks, if you want to watch it. And where is Pacific Rim streaming?
On Hulu.
On Hulu, okay. I own it, but you can watch it on Hulu too. So, Honeybee, initial thoughts on Pacific Rim?
I remember watching this movie, like seeing it when it came out and absolutely loving it. And then watching it back this time, I was like, how did I not like remember seeing this like kaiju movie, like knowing, I don't know how this slipped my brain, right? Because when we started this podcast and you're like, we should do kaiju movies, I'm like, what the fuck's a kaiju? Like, I had no idea. And then I'm like, how did I watch this movie? And they say it so many times and all this, and I just never, it just didn't stick, I guess. I don't know. So I was like, well, damn. I don't know. Maybe I really don't know how but I remember loving it so much. I will say watching it back this time, it is a little bit more corny than I remember, only in the sense of the emotion, like the acting.
Oh. Uh-huh.
But not in a bad way. It doesn't take away from it at all. It's just like way more dramatic than I remember it being, I guess. And I thought that was kind of funny, but I had a great time watching it. It was definitely one that I had already seen. I was just a little confused with myself. Like, how did I see this movie and then not, like, how did this not stick? Because it's a movie that I feel like I loved so much when it happened. So I don't know. But, yeah, it's great. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I saw it in the theater when it was new. And
same.
I currently own a digital copy. I can't remember if I ever owned a physical copy or not, but I liked it enough, to buy it. But I have a little bit of a problem with the basic premise of the movie.
Okay.
I mean, of course, building mechs is kind of stupid, but we just, that's part of the genre. Yeah, we've seen a lot of them. We'll see more of them. It's fine. But to me, they don't seem like they'd actually be more efficient than just making a better gun, a better tank, whatever. Do I really need to fist fight this kaiju? Can I just shoot it with a better gun? But given that we're going to build these mechs, I don't buy that today, and in the year this movie is set, that they can't just be operated
wah,
by
wah.
that they can't be operated by remote control. I see absolutely no reason why a pilot has to be inside of it and why there have to be two pilots. I'm not buying that at all. It makes no sense to me because, I mean, we have drones right now that can do quite a bit. And I can play a video game where I am controlling a virtual character. Yeah, it's not a 100-foot tall mech, no. But I am telling this thing remotely what to do, and I'm able to combat other people that are on the other side of the world. And even with the shitty internet connection I have, I am able to control this thing in a meaningful way that I can interact with this other person in a meaningful way. So the idea that with a military grade internet connection, I couldn't sit several miles away safely and control the mecha well enough to fight the kaiju, I just don't believe it. I don't need to be in there, and there doesn't need to be two of me doing it. So it's just a problem for me, in just suspending my disbelief, because I'm like, why are we doing this? Just shoot it with drones. But putting all that aside and trying to just accept the premise and go with it, everybody in the movie does a good job.
Right.
Everything looks really good.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoy it for what it is. I just think what it is kind of dumb.
Yeah, I think that just the people shit, I guess because of what it is, it just makes it so, like, just so emotional and dramatic and, my brother and, your family. And so, yeah, I feel like that's where, like, the corniness comes from. Is just, like, it's so fucking, which I will say, this is one of the, movies where I do enjoy the people shit. I feel like they made the people shit, interesting, but based off of this, like, yeah, like you're saying, a premise that isn't really realistic, I think it just kind of makes it a little corny. But I also don't feel like it's bad. I don't feel like it's in a bad way. I just feel like it's like, oh god, here we go with staring off into space, staring off into the distance.
I think part of that has to do with the source material, the inspiration, not the source material, but the inspiration. This is an homage to, of course, monster movies, kaiju movies, but also mecha and anime. And a lot of, although we've had in these movies Mecha Godzilla and stuff like that, the person riding around inside of a mecha is really more from anime and manga than it is from the live movies. You get a lot more of that in anime. And in anime, everything is just so emotional. Everybody is just...
Yeah, that makes sense.
So upset all the time. And and also so loud about how upset they are. There's no... I'm just going to stoically suffer with my discomfort. There's just a lot of shouting and crying. Nobody in an anime can just suck it up and deal. They all just have to spew their emotions all over the place.
Yeah, I feel like that's very much what is happening here. But I do love it. I think it's great. I think it's a good movie. I don't think it takes away from it. It's just something that I noticed this time around that I don't think I noticed when watching it in the theater. And it was like, like this looks so good. And I loved it so much. So I think that just watching it this time, I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is dramatic. This is very emotional. But it did make me really love the people shit, which I feel like is not easy to do sometimes in these movies. Sometimes the people shit sucks so bad, I'm just like, ugh, monsters, come on, where are they at? I did not feel that way about this people shit. Also, the design of the kaiju in the film is just like so good. Every single one, like, the details, they look incredible. And it's something that just, I think I really stuck with me from the first movie, but I also love watching it now, is just how absolutely great everything looks. The fights are so good. the design of the kaiju is so good. The way they sound is so good. The music is so good. So there are so many things about this movie that are just absolutely amazing. Just something I randomly noticed going through it this time. But I will say, I'm not sure. I can't tell if I'm actually seeing this when it's happening or if I'm not. And I'm just like, I don't know. But when some of the kaiju, they like, it looks like some of them are built kind of in like homage to other kaiju like throughout our history, and maybe that's just because you can only design a huge monster so many ways, but like there's one that's very like Anguirus shaped, you know, or there's this one moment in where they kind of span, or like the camera like pans up to look at this huge mecha, and it is very like the same moment as like in, you know, Mecha Godzilla. And so I think there are these moments that I kind of caught in this that I, you know, wouldn't have caught the first time I was watching it. And I'm not sure if I'm really catching those moments, if they're really real, or it's just something that I'm like seeing because we've seen so many of these movies, you know what I mean? But I just thought that they did a great job of just like making a modern day kaiju movie. Which this also reminds me, when we were at G-Fest the first year, there was this guy, we were talking to him like in a line, and he was saying, you know, I think his name was Adam, and he was saying, I'll never forget, like, my dad and me watching King Kong. And he was talking about this, like, 1933's King Kong, you know? And he was talking about how great that movie was to him as a kid. And when I saw that movie with you, you know, a few years ago, it was just so funny to me. I didn't really understand the genre yet, right? I was still very new to it. I didn't really understand. I couldn't see didn't know what was to come. And then watching a movie like this, where I can see all of these things kind of building up, and then these are the years of where like this is my nostalgia. You know what I mean? Like I remember being a teenager and seeing this in the theaters, and so it's just so cool to like kind of go full circle in that moment and really be able to understand now these little tiny things that I can pick out of the movies, or that I can see that's just like, oh, it's so good. It's classic because of this, you know? Like, I just love that so much. And I love that we're in my nostalgia years. It's so good. It's so good.
Well, that's good. Well, let's take a look at our cast. And let me tell you, whoever wrote the page for Wikipedia, they went all out. They went overboard. Normally on Wikipedia under cast, it just says, you know, John Smith plays Sam Jones, right? This one, they've written a little summary of each of the characters.
Oh, shit.
And even like quoted the actors' thoughts on the characters and shit.
Aw.
So I'm not going to but I'm not going to read all of that, and right now it's kind of in my way. I just want to read the list of actors. But yeah, somebody cared a lot about this and put it all in the Wikipedia page. So we have Charlie Hunnam as Riley Beckett, Idris Elba as Marshall Stacker Pentecost. Did I know his name was Pentecost? I don't remember. I think they just called him Marshall most of the time.
Yeah.
Rinko Kikuchi as Mako Mori, and Mana Ashida as young Mako. Charlie fucking Day as Dr. Newt Geisler?
I don't know, but what's so funny about this is when I first saw this actor, I was like, oh my gosh, who does this guy remind me of? He reminds me of somebody. And then later on in the movie, I realized that he was the guy that he reminds me of.
Yeah, it's Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and like Horrible Bosses.
Yes, he's in that too. Charlie doing Charlie work. Ron Perlman.
Woo!
Ron, do not get drunk in case he attacks Perlman as Hannibal Chow. Hannibal Chow, not the character's real name, apparently. Robert Kaczynski as Chuck Hansen. Max Martini as Hercules Herc Hansen. Clifton Collins Jr. as Tendo Choi. Bern Gorman as Dr. Herman Gottlieb. Diego Kattenhoff as Yancey Beckett. It says here additional Jaeger pilots include Charlie Liu, Lance Liu, and Mark Liu as the Wei Tang triplets. So they got real triplets, I guess. Mark Mallet and Heather Dorkson as Sasha and Alexis Kaidanovsky. Joe Pingu as Captain Merritt. That's the captain of the fishing boat. Santiago Segura as a aide of Hannibal's. Brad William Henke and Larry Joe Campbell as members of the Alaskan construction team. Robin Thomas, Julian Barnes, and David Richmond Peak as UN reps. Sebastian Pijot as a Jaeger engineer. Joshua Pierce as an officer. Jonathan Foxton as a frantic civilian. David Fox as an old man on a beach. Jane Watson plays Riley and Yancey's mother in a flashback. And producer Thomas Tull makes a cameo appearance. Ellen McLean as the AI of Gypsy Danger. It says that's a nod to her role as GLaDOS in the Portal game series. Okay. So, yeah, there you go. There is our cast. And let's get into the plot, which we have also from Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. Good Lord, this is a long plot. In 2013, massive alien monsters called kaiju begin emerging from an interdimensional portal at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean called the Breach. Oh, we get a little text at the beginning that tells us some of this and tells us that kaiju means giant monster, or giant beast, which is not true. And that the mechs are called Jaegers, which means hunter in German.
Yeah, I think maybe I just
Kaiju
thought they
means
had like made this word up when I first saw this. Maybe that's why it didn't stick.
Right. Kaiju, as everybody listening to this should know by now, means strange beast. And Dai Kaiju means giant strange beast or great strange beast. And of course, strange beast is generally used in the sense of monster. And yes, Jaeger means hunter in German. So we've got Japanese versus Germans going on here, I guess. I don't know. So they're coming through this breach and attacking coastal cities. In response, humanity builds massive mecha called Jaegers. Each is co-piloted by 2 or more people who share the mental stress of piloting the machine through a mental link called the drift. So yeah, not only takes 2 pilots, but they have to be mentally connected, psychically connected, but through electronics. In 2020, brothers Yancey and Riley Beckett pilot the American Jaeger with the unfortunate name of Gypsy Danger, only they've spelled Gypsy Gipsy.
Also, unfortunately, what a joke that this is what people predicted for, not predicted, but like saw for 2020 and what we actually got.
Yeah.
I wish we got huge mechas instead.
Instead of little tiny microscopic things trying to kill us all?
Yes.
To defend Anchorage from a Category 3 kaiju codenamed Knifehead, who severely damages Gypsy. Oh, yeah, I was going to say this earlier. I think Knifehead might be a little tribute to a Gamera foe, to Giron. Gamera's knife-headed enemy.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of little like things where you're like, ooh, that's definitely one of them. Also, getting into the like suit to be like left hemisphere, right hemisphere brain person is sick. Like the like metal spine that just like, oh, it's so cool. It looks very good.
Yeah. It takes a while to suit up too, though. So I was like, guys, kaiju's on the way. Let's streamline this procedure a little bit. So anyway, Yancey gets killed in the fight. Riley kills Knifehead and pilots Gypsy solo to shore before collapsing. Traumatized by the loss of his brother and the stress of piloting alone, Riley quits the Jaeger program. And apparently there's no sort of veterans health care or pension or something for Jaeger pilots. But we'll get we'll get to that in another paragraph.
That's not too surprising.
5 years later. Yeah. 5 years later, world leaders decide to cease funding for the Jaeger program in favor of coastal defense walls, since kaiju attack frequency is increasing and Jaegers are being destroyed faster than they can be built. Faster than you can build a giant fucking wall? The walls quickly prove ineffective because, walls are limited in their ability to keep shit out if that shit really wants to get in. The remaining Jaegers are relocated to Hong Kong under the command of Marshal Stacker Pentecost, who plans to try to destroy the breach using a tactical nuclear weapon, despite unsuccessful previous attempts. Riley, now working in wall construction, is recruited by Pentecost for the mission. So this is what I was talking about. Riley is now apparently just an what do they call it? Itinerant worker. He's just a hobo. He's, day laborer trying to get a job working on the wall. And apparently if you don't get a job, in spite of this worldwide emergency, people are still having to work for food. There's not just a, rationing. We're still doing some kind of capitalist shit here. I don't know why. Because the boss comes out and he's like, well, I got good news and bad news. What do you want first? Somebody's yelled, the bad news. Bad news is 3 guys died while working on the wall yesterday. Good news is I got 3 openings. Who wants them?
I think this is just like to make it feel more realistic.
Yeah. He holds up these ration cards. So he's like, if you don't work, you don't eat. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem,
I mean, that's real, though.
Well, it is. But, when there's but work doing what? Other than building this fucking wall, it just seems like when there's a worldwide crisis like this, that the system's going to have to be adjusted a little bit. And there's going to be a little bit more in the way of welfare, because our normal activities, like there was in 2020 when people suddenly couldn't work, the government helped out a little bit. Not as much as they might have in a not capitalist system, but
sure.
It just seems like there'd be and during the Great Depression, there was bread lines and things. It seems like there'd be some kind of minimum government assistance going on, rather than, if you don't help us build this goddamn stupid fucking wall, you're just going to have to starve to death. Anyway.
I think, but not plot. Even like for in reality in 2020, like I never got government assistance because I hadn't like done my taxes and all of this stuff. So I had to work through the pandemic. I worked the entire time. So it's like, I think that's just realistic of like, sure, there should be some government assistance, and maybe there is, but that's still a privilege. Not everyone is going to get that, Like, my parents didn't get, like the stipends, and I didn't get that sort of thing. So it's like, there are still going to be those people who, like, still are just trying to work just to, like, survive the global whatever disaster.
Yeah. Yes, it's realistic that they would have a stupid system in place. It's absolutely realistic. That instead of going for maximum efficiency to deal with this problem and keep the maximum number of people alive while we're doing it, that we'd have some stupid wall construction project going on. Anyway, let's see, where were we? Riley's working in construction, and Pentecost recruits him for the mission.
And this is a tale as old as time also, where it's like, you're in retirement, but you're the only guy that could do the job. I have to come and find you and get you out of retirement to put you back in the thing.
Yes, get over your trauma, and because there's nobody else. Riley, so he's taking a base called the Shatterdome. Is that a good name? It sounds like it's asking to be shattered. Riley is introduced to Mako Morey, who is as cute as a button.
She is.
The director of the Jaeger Restoration Program. 4 Jaegers remain operational. The refurbished Gypsy Danger, the Russian Cherno Alpha, the Chinese Crimson Typhoon, and the Australian Striker Eureka, piloted by father and son team Herc and Chuck Hansen. To find a new co-pilot, Riley participates in tryouts. He decides that he and Mako are drift compatible. During their first test in Gypsy Danger, Mako falls out of alignment while reliving the memory of an attack on Tokyo by the kaiju Onibaba.
We're going a little bit, I'm just reading my notes. Yeah. There's this part that I really was super dramatic, but just oof, I just felt. And it's when he's trying to get him to you gotta come do this. You're the only pilot I want. My other two choices were dead. And he's like, I was still connected to my brother when he died. And I was like, oh, damn. Because, they're connected in this world. Holy shit, that's fucking hardcore. But then the marshal gives him this speech and he's like, haven't you heard? The world is ending. Where would you rather die? Here or in a Jaeger? And I was like, damn. Whew. It's just crazy because geez, it's just so hardcore, so dramatic. And I just didn't want to skip over that little part because it was just, it gave me all of the feels.
Yeah, and there's also a whole thing here with Mako wants to be a Jaeger pilot and Marshall doesn't want to let her. And even though she seems really competent and the perfect person to do it, but I think there's two things going on. One, it turns out Marshall is basically her adopted father. And two, he's concerned that her trauma might be too great. And his concerns are not unfounded.
Yeah.
Because when they're in the thing doing their test drift, she's overwhelmed with her memory of the kaiju attack and almost fires the plasma cannon. While they're still in the little docking bay, almost shoots it right into the control room and possibly destroying the entire base.
Yeah, and right before we get to this moment, we've had this little science-y moment where we find out that all of the kaijus are clones, and there's a piece of the kaiju brain, and then we kind of get this with the plasma gun. But right before that too, they have a conversation where she's like, I want to be the pilot. And he's like, vengeance is like an open wound. You cannot take that emotion into the drift. And then we meet the douchebags, right? Where the egotistical guy and his dad, where he's like, you're dead weight and I'm going to drop you like a sack of kaiju shit. I'm pretty sure that's a quote. Then, he's like, give her a shot. She gives the puppy eyes. I just feel like I started feeling this tension between, Riley and what is her name? Mako, yeah. Yeah, early, when they started fighting, when they're doing the fight, I'm like, why does this feel sexy? Does anyone else in this room feel the sexual tension, or is it just me? And then she is kicking his ass, and I'm like, and then he's like, she's my co-pilot. Not gonna work. Why? Because I said so. And then he's like, I'm not crazy. You felt that, right? And I'm like, we all kind of felt it. It's kind of geez, Louise. But so then when they get in the thing and they connect to each other, I don't know. It just feels like more than they're just connected, which of course it does grow into that. But I was like, oof, I feel like maybe this is personal and we should not be watching this right now. And then but when he goes he's telling her, when the memories start, let it flow. Don't latch on to anything. This that we see is it's such a visual representation, I feel of what PTSD actually is, because they're just kind of hooked up to this thing. In the drift, they're seeing all of these memories, and it's don't latch on to it. And it just really oof, man, it hit me in the chest. Not even just her memory, but before that, when she's seeing all of these things pass by, and even when they connect with the kaiju brain and you just get these little snippets, I just felt wow, what a great visual representation of what PTSD is that she's actually stuck in this memory, about to blow this plasma gun and kill everybody. And she's not meaning to, but it's just, she's stuck in this memory. She's not in reality. And I was like, wow, that is fucking powerful, my dude. I thought that was just such a cool thing to be able to see anyway without the whole PTSD thing, but I think it just really, if you had to like explain it to someone or be like, let me show you something, I feel like this clip is just so like real of just how you can get like stuck in a memory like that. Oof, this movie gives me all of the feels. Like, I was like, holy shit, it's in my chest.
Well, I really like what they did with the shoe.
Yeah, oh, it's so good.
It's part of what you're talking about. So when Marshall decides to let Mako try to be a pilot, he gives her this little red child's shoe. That is obviously her shoe. And then when they start doing the drift connect, we see her flashing back to this kaiju attack when she was a little girl, and she's wearing one red shoe and carrying the other one. The shoe's fallen off, but she's so scared that she's not able to just stop and put it back on. So she's carrying the shoe while and the little girl that's playing young Mako is just so good. She's so cute, but also doing such a good job of, acting, of being terrified. And I just really love that whole scene.
Ugh,
but it's the memory she's getting stuck in as so when they drift, their minds connect, and they sort of kind of their whole life flashes in front of them and in front of the other person at the same time. So what's her name? Riley's in there trying to help her as well, saying, "No, don't let it go. Don't focus on this."
And when he's like talking
Look at me.
to like little baby Mako, I could cry. Like, he's like, none of this is real. It's just a memory. I'm just like, oof, dude. Ugh, gosh, I could cry just talking about it. It's so powerful because it's just it's so real.
Yeah.
Like that feeling of like, obviously it's not like this, but it's just, ugh, man, it really made me want to cry. It got me in my feels.
So, as a result of nearly killing everybody, Pentecost grounds Mako. When Riley protests, Pentecost reveals he adopted Mako after her parents were lost in the kaiju attack.
Well, he doesn't really reveal it. Riley kind of saw the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which...
Yeah, yes. He sees... Because a mecha comes and fights off the kaiju, and then Marshall steps out of it and sees Mako down there, and that's when they first met.
Mm-hmm. And this moment is so powerful when he's like, I know, like, I saw everything, and he's like, I don't need your sympathy, I don't need your like bullshit, all I need is your compliance, so get to work. Like, he's just like, look at me, I am the daddy now.
Pentecost consults kaiju experts Newton, Geisler, and Herman Gottlieb. Herman claims the breach will stabilize and the kaiju attacks increase in frequency, but that this will allow the assault to succeed. Because basically they've tried dropping bombs before and they won't go through the breach. But if the breach is staying open longer and longer, or the portal that's at the bottom of the breach, or however the fuck it works, then the bomb might get through.
And by this point, we've also met the black market kaiju brain guy, Hellboy. What's his name in the movie? Something Crawley, Howler. I don't remember.
We're about to meet him. Hannibal Chow.
So
this breach at the bottom of the ocean seems to open up to another dimension, or at least another planet. It's not clear. In the beginning, they say something about, we always thought the invaders would come from outer space, but they actually came from the bottom of the ocean. But it's through this breach that leads somewhere else. And so anyway, they think they can just shove a bomb down there and either kill what's on the other side or close the breach. Oh, but Gottlieb notices that the kaiju attacks are becoming more and more frequent, and more kaiju are coming through. Like, there's going to be 2 coming through at a time, and soon it'll be 3 and then 4, and it'll be happening more often. Let's see. But Gottlieb, the other guy, Geisler, Charlie Day, he's more concerned with studying the kaiju themselves, and he wants to drift with a kaiju brain to learn more about them.
Well, he already also has.
Which he does.
Yeah, he does in a little bit closer to the beginning, and like now he's looking for a secondary brain.
Yeah. So he drifted with a brain against everybody's advice and discovers that kaiju are bioweapons grown by an alien race to facilitate their colonization of Earth. Pentecost instructs Newton to find black market dealer Hannibal Chow to obtain another kaiju brain to drift with. Newton realizes that the kaiju hive mind gained access to his brain since drifting is a two-way link, and the two newest kaiju to emerge, Leatherback and Otachi, are sent simultaneously to find him in Hong Kong. So, that's kind of skimming over things. So, he goes looking for... the marshal has made a deal with this black market guy that in exchange for stuff that they need, you have the rights to come to the kaiju cleanup and take whatever parts you need, because there's a black market. People will pay for this shit.
Yeah, and apparently kaiju bone powder is the dopest of the dopes.
Yeah. It's Viagra, isn't it? It's probably all bullshit. Probably none of it. Just like, people eating shark fins and rhino horns and stuff. It probably doesn't actually do anything, but people believe it does and are willing to pay a lot of money for it. So he sends him to go looking for this guy Hannibal Chow, which turns out to be Ron Perlman. And before they can make their deal, there's a big kaiju attack, and that's when Charlie realizes, oops, maybe I... because they have a hive mind, and because I drifted with a mind, I kind of accidentally drifted with all of them. So they know who I am and they're coming to find me.
Yeah, and then he just let me just scream it to everyone in this room he's like, he wants the little guy. Yeah, so he has to leave the shop, and there's a kaiju shelter, and he runs in there with a bunch of other just, people off the street. Hannibal's got his own private shelter, but he's not gonna let him in. So, at one point he tells everybody they're after me, and they're like, "What? What?" And for some reason they don't say, "Who's this crazy guy that thinks the kaiju are after him?" They all just go, "Oh my God, they're after this guy." Because my first thought would be that this guy's he's just crazy paranoid. Mm-hmm. They're not after you. They're after everybody. They're after the tornado's not coming just for you, dude. It's coming for everybody. But they believe him. All Jaegers except Gypsy Danger are dispatched to intervene. Otachi destroys Crimson Typhoon, while Leatherback destroys Cherno Alpha and disables Striker Eureka with an EMP blast, injuring Herc. As the only non-digital Jaeger, the nuclear-powered Gypsy Danger is sent by Pentecost to help, because it's an older model, so it's analog. It's still got electronics on it, though. It's still going to be susceptible to an EMP blast. It's nonsense. Gypsy kills both Leatherback and Otachi. Newton and Hannibal move to harvest Otachi's secondary brain for drifting, but discover she is pregnant. The infant kaiju bursts out and devours Hannibal before being strangled by its own umbilical cord. Newton and Herman drift with the... Something super cool about these kaiju fights that I don't think we've seen before, but maybe we have, is that the kaiju just start picking shit up off the street to fight each other. That was so cool. Like at one point that when Gypsy and the, I guess, Leatherback are fighting, they're just like picking up like train cars and a crane, and they're just beating the shit out of each other with it, which I just thought was so cool.
Yeah. Also, these kaiju have a lot of bioluminescence going on. Mm-hmm. I think even their blood glows. Mm-hmm. And also, Hannibal tells us the brains have too much ammonia in them. That's why there's no market for the brain. It's too much ammonia. So then Newton and Herman drift with the infant's brain, discovering that the breach only opens in the presence of a kaiju's DNA. Pentecost reveals to Riley he is ill from radiation poisoning due to solo piloting a first-generation Jaeger to save young Mako. Well, that's not why he... It's all the piloting he did, not just that one time he saved Mako. And is unable to pilot a Jaeger since. Yeah, well, he does that bleeding from the nose thing to let us know that he's sick.
Mm-hmm.
When two new kaiju, Scunner and Raiju, are detected guarding the breach, Gypsy and the repaired striker, piloted by Pentecost and Chuck. Oh, yeah, because Chuck's dad got hurt. Not killed, but he got hurt. They approach the breach. So they missed a part. The plan for the breach attack was for Chuck and Herc's mech to carry the bomb, and the other mechas were supposed to be their backup. We're supposed to protect them so that they could get to the breach from any kaiju that come in to defend it. But that plan's gotten all fucked up now because a bunch of the mechs got trashed, and Herc can't pilot. So Pentecost is going to do it even though he knows it's going to kill him. Not clear why it would kill him, because presumably these later generation ones don't have the radiation problem that his did. But
yeah, he says something about how he can't do it again because it would be too much on his body. I think he just means like connecting to the drift and stuff. Somehow because of the radiation poisoning, like he's just too weak to. It doesn't really make very much sense, but I think that's what they were kind of going for.
He's Idris Elba. He should be able to deal with this shit. But let's see. They approach the breach where a new Category 5 kaiju, Slattern? What? Google the word Slattern, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to go into it right now. Appears. When the Jaegers are attacked by the kaiju, Gypsy kills Raiju, but is crippled. Pentecost and Chuck sacrifice themselves and Stryker by prematurely detonating their nuclear warhead. This kills Scunner, allowing Gypsy to slaughter Slattern and ride its corpse into the breach. Once more, into the breach, dear friends. Riley ejects Mako from Gypsy, manually triggers its nuclear reactor, so he doesn't have a bomb, but as we've already established, their mecha is nuclear powered, whereas the newer ones are not. So he just turns the reactor into a bomb. He triggers its self-destruct because, any sufficiently dangerous thing should have a self-destruct already programmed into it.
We had this moment where the two science guys, Newt and I can't remember the other guy's name, they do the double narrow handshake and they connect with the kaiju's brain together. And that's how they kind of know that the plan isn't going to work. And also the speech that Idris Elba gives before he gets into the kaiju was so good when he's like, "Today we are canceling the apocalypse,"
which I've already referenced accidentally because I remember noting at the time, this is his once more into the breach, dear friends, or his St. Crispin's Day speech. Those are both from Henry V, people. Also similar to Bill Pullman's Independence Day speech.
Yes,
He gets to do his Henry V moment before they go out to do their final battle. Let's see. So what's his name here? Ejects before Gypsy detonates, sealing the breach. Riley and Mako's escape pods surface in the Pacific Ocean. They embrace as rescue helicopters arrive, and humanity rejoices at the defeat of the kaiju. Do they just have a big hug? Or do they have a smooch?
They have a big hug, which I really appreciated that they didn't kiss. It's not even they didn't even really hug at first too. They just put their foreheads against each other and are just happy to be alive. They made it. They saved the world. And I really fucking appreciated how real that moment felt. And that they didn't have to kiss, but we still know that it's it's real and it's good. And it was great.
Yeah, it's weird because they sort of have a romance, but sort of not, and they sort of become, but because of the nature of drifting, they're so connected that on the one hand, how could they not have a romance being so connected? But on the other hand, it's so much more of a connection than anyone you would ever smooch with in real life. So it's kind of it's. Their relationship is more than that, or at least different than that. And maybe it'll also be that, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Who knows? It's unclear. But I'm rooting for those two kids, those two crazy kids. The other thing is, like, how can you, I don't know. It just, yeah, sure, if you're drifting with your brother or your dad, that's going to be totally different. But if you're drifting with a non-relative of the opposite sex who is clearly an attractive person, it seems almost inevitable. And it also seems like a lot of the communication problems that people have might get eliminated by having your brains directly connected like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
I really like how Marshall, too, before he dies, like, tells Mako, like, I'll always be here for you. You can always find me in the drift. Like, whoa, it's so crazy. Imagine that we actually had something like that where you just, like, connect in and just, like, watch your memories or can, like, see someone that you love through your memories. I was like, holy balls. Like, so great.
Yeah. It kind of seems to me if this technology existed that it wouldn't be being used just for Jaegers. There would be a black market in people just wanting to drift. And there would also maybe be, in other totally different kinds of science fiction movies, there has been this idea of recording memories that other people can then watch.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go skydiving and record that, and then somebody else, they don't have to go skydiving. They can just watch my memory of me skydiving or doing other things. You let your imagination run wild. And it seems like maybe this kind of technology could definitely lead in that direction. And that's a whole, just seems like the world of Pacific Rim is going to have a lot of weird shit going on besides the kaiju, because there's some crazy technology going on here.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's it doesn't mention it here, but isn't there a mid-credit or post-credit scene where Ron Perlman
There is, yeah. But before we get there,
climbs out of the...
Before we get there, whenever, Riley has to manually activate the, like, bomb situation because everything's gone down, and then we, like, see the breach open up to, like, the next world, and it just looks like a bunch of buttholes. Just saying. They all just look like buttholes, and Riley's just falling through the buttholes. And whenever
The portal looks like a butthole?
Huh?
The portal looks like a butthole?
Yeah, he goes through, like, several, like, every, like, he's just falling through, like, going through the breach, I guess, and he's just, like, falling, and it's just, like, butthole. Like, they just keep opening up.
It's just buttholes all the way down.
Yeah, all the way down. And then when he evacuates and comes back up, he doesn't have a pulse, and Mako's, like, trying to, bring it back, and all the guys at, like, the home base are like, he's in the pod, but there's no vitals, and she's like, he doesn't have a pulse, and then she's, like, hugging him and cries, and it magically brings him back to life because it's amazing, and he says, "You're squeezing me too tight," and it's so cute. It's so cute.
So maybe it's accidental CPR by squeezing.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the post-credit scene, Ron Perlman cuts his way out of the little baby kaiju that had swallowed him.
So funny.
So
and he says
you can't keep a Ron
he cuts
Perlman
him out
down.
and he says, "Where the hell is my shoe?" or something like that.
So there you are, folks. Pacific Rim. Now, it's been a while since I've seen the sequel, so I don't remember, because it seems like they've solved the problem. But maybe I don't remember if another rift opens or if it's just set in a different period, or I don't remember. But we'll find out in a little while when we get to that.
Yeah, I'd say the kaiju are incredible. I love the designs. I love the level of ferocity. I love the sounds. I loved the people shit. The cast was great. Riley had the abs of a god. All movie, he would just kind of flash his little, like, godly abs every now and then. I was like, hell yeah, get it, sir. Idris Elba can't go wrong, especially when he's, like, in that sexy ass suit, all geared up and ready to fight. Yeah, loved it.
So I'm just looking up Riley here because I'm like, I don't remember what else he's been in. It's a bunch of shit that I haven't seen. Well, no, one of them I saw. Oh God! So he's probably best known for being in Sons of Anarchy. Plays Jax Teller.
Is he the main guy? Is he like Jax?
Yeah, he's Jax, but isn't Ron Perlman also in that?
I think so. I don't know. I never
Isn't
watched
that a
it.
Perlman joint? Me either. I've just seen. It's one of those folks. If you're unaware, I don't think I've discussed this here before. Several years ago, I resolved to not watch any more shows about unlikable people doing unpleasant things, and Sons of Anarchy appeared to me to be one of those shows. So I just did not watch it, even though it has people on it that I like.
That's not why I didn't watch it, but I still haven't watched it.
He unfortunately played Arthur Pendragon in King Arthur Legend of the Sword, which I recall being very bad. Pendragon's going to come up a couple of movies from now. So there you are. Honeybee, what are you going to rate Pacific Rim?
I think Pacific Rim is a 5-star movie. I'm going to rate it 5 stars.
I think, in spite of the fact of how stupid the basic premise is, I will also give it 5 stars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty great. I thoroughly enjoy it.
It definitely succeeds in doing what it set out to do and does it very well.
Mm-hmm. I
The
agree.
CGI is all top notch.
Yes.
It all looks very, very good.
It holds up for sure.
5 stars. So there you go, folks. You can stream it on Hulu or over at Disney Plus, because Hulu and Disney Plus are the same thing, same company. Next week, we are watching Jack the Giant Slayer, which is on Tubi, and I think some other things. Let me look that up quickly. Come on. It's definitely on Tubi.
It's on Tubi. You have to rent it on Prime, YouTube.
Oh, okay. I thought some of these things are on Tubi and on Pluto and a bunch of other things. But yeah, Tubi's the only one where it's free.
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, Jack the Giant Slayer, not Jack the Giant Killer, which there's at least 2 different movies called Jack the Giant Killer. This is Jack the Giant Slayer. But we will also be talking about Jack the Giant Killer after that. So there you go, folks. Until next week, I have been Precious D.
And I have been Honeybee.
Thanks for joining us. Please rate and review and like and subscribe and all that stuff. And remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements.
And please, don't misuse science.
We won't see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go.
Woo!
You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please consider rating and reviewing us on your podcasting platform of choice. You can leave us a message and find links to all our things at mmftg.com.
Fun time go!